Well, good morning from Cottage Farmstead. I'm Rebecca, and it is a beautiful September morning. We are closing in on the autumnal equinox, and we have been getting some of our fall garden planted over the last couple weeks. So I thought I'd take you on a tour around on this beautiful morning. As you can see behind me here, we have our cows. One of our girls is in heat today, so she may interrupt with a little bit of mooing in the background. Just like that. So she is fine. She's in heat. We're hoping to get her bred with an AI tech later today, but you may hear her making a little bit of noise in the background, along with our rooster, of course. So down here in our flower terrace, most things are starting to fade. The zinnias are fading right now. The black-eyed Susans are long gone, and so are the sunflowers. One flower that has really taken off here in the late summer, early fall is our salvia sage. So we would get a couple flowers here and there throughout the summer, but it has really been enjoying this change in season. So these have been making an appearance in my bouquets lately. So most celosia is still going pretty strong. A lot of them have gone to seed already, so if I do take them inside for cut flowers, they do tend to make a little bit of mess with their little tiny seeds everywhere. But they're still beautiful in flower arrangements, and I love having this bright last bit of color before we go into fall. So as you can see, our loofah has taken over. As soon as it gets really hot and sticky outside, loofah just goes bonkers. So it loved all of August and early September when we had really hot temperatures. You can see right there we have some of the loofah, and there's some all over the plant. There's one over there on the fence. I don't know if you can see it in the shade there. And it's growing over our railing down into the stairwell up onto the other side of the house. So it is growing all over the place. So we're excited to see how many loofah sponges we get this year. And one surprise flower that we had here in the late summer is the butterfly pea. So I planted them way back in the spring, and I didn't think they had germinated, and then suddenly they sprouted up in the greenhouse in the seed cells that I had planted them in. So I put them out here on a front porch with a little bit of trellis here. I was trying to get them to grow up our porch. They haven't gotten quite that tall yet, but they've been producing beautiful dark blue purplish flowers. We've been enjoying them as garnish, and then we've also been selling them to some local chefs as well, but they are beautiful. I have some pod setting to collect some seed, and I'm hoping next year to have the whole front of the house covered in these beautiful flowers. So down here in our vegetable terrace, things have definitely changed since the last time I took you around through here. One thing that has not changed though is our pepper situation. They are still doing fantastic. They're loaded with peppers. I've been getting harvest off of them twice a week and chopping up and putting a lot of bell peppers in the freezer in addition to enjoying them for dinner many evenings. They are starting to fade on me. Some of the limbs are starting to snap under the weight of the bell peppers, so they won't be here too much longer, but we are enjoying them while we still have them. In this middle bed over here, we have tried planting multiple things, and that's essentially the story of our garden over the entire month of September, is we've tried. For some reason, there is something that is really eating anything that is in the brassica family. I haven't found the caterpillar on them. It might be the grasshoppers because they've been in the garden, but we're not really sure what's eating everything on us. I haven't seen signs of slugs either, so we're not really sure. But in this spot, we had originally planted kohlrabi, and so we just recently planted spinach in there. So far, it's still alive. So hopefully spinach will be one of our greens this winter, even if we can't get any of the brassicas to grow. We also have one of our succession plantings of green beans here, and they have been producing quite heavily. They are getting hit by some rust, and there's a type of caterpillar that has been really munching away at them, and we've been trying to pick them off of the plants as much as we can. Let me see if I can find one for you, because they're pretty creepy looking caterpillars and pretty nasty to squish. All right, I found one here. So the telltale for these caterpillars is they curl up the leaf, and that's the way they shade themselves. And I'm gonna rip this one off the plant and let you have a peek inside. All right, I got it open here. Let's see if I can get it to come out a little bit. Oops, with one hand. Look at that! Look how ugly that is! Doesn't it look ugly? It can actually squirt this like black liquid from its backside in there. So usually what we do is we take these little leaf curler caterpillars off with their whole leaf, and we give them a smush on the ground because they're pretty disgusting to kill. And if they feel threatened, they will launch out from that ugly black backside that they have there, this nasty little black fluid. So if you're still with me after that nasty caterpillar, we do have more beans that are not getting attacked by those leaf curlers. We have our drying beans in the quadrant next to them, and we have our Cherokee Trail tier beans on the trellis, and they are currently drying. They're not having any more flowers, so they're pretty much done. So once these pods dry, we'll be able to rip the plants out. And below them we have the black turtle black beans, and they have mostly wrapped up. There's a few flowers here and there, but it won't be long before these finish. In this section here, this is the one where we tried experimental hugelkultur, and it didn't go well. That one row that pretty much in every garden tour I said, I don't know if anything's growing in here yet. Nothing really ever grew in that one. So as soon as everything's died back in here and we've pulled it out, we are planning on removing all of the wood and starting afresh over here without hugelkultur for next year. So on a whim, I decided to throw some of our purple potted beans in. And you can see they're blooming here, and we're getting some of our very first purple potted beans. I wasn't planning on growing them this year, but since this row was not really growing much of anything, I was like, well, what could hurt? Throw a few in here and see if they come up, because they're usually pretty vigorous. So a couple plants came up, so it's giving us some late pole beans here in the fall. And our beautiful watermelons and cantaloupes suffered a very quick death. Just about a week and a half ago, really. They were doing so fantastic. We had plenty of fruit coming, and we were excited to have a lot more melons going into the fall. And then the squash bug showed up. The squash bugs had hit the Growing Green family farm plots over on the other side of our property pretty hard and had killed everything over there. And then the entire colony moved over here. And I will insert a picture or two of how many there are on every single melon, and they just pretty much killed everything overnight. So this row here has one of the few fall crops that's actually doing decently well. We plant some sugar snap peas in here, and you can see they go all the way down the row here. We have a trellis. This is where the cucumbers were earlier in the season, so we just left the trellis here. And they are actually doing decently well, so hopefully we will get some sugar snap peas before the frost. These next two rows are empty, but it is not for lack of trying to plant things. So we tried planting chard, we tried planting kale, we tried planting broccoli, and we were doing all of them from transplants. We'd plant them out. The next day, they were gone. They were eaten alive. And we had intentionally pulled out any of our old brassicas before we planted these a couple weeks in advance and moved them to the compost pile, fed them to the chickens so that we wouldn't have any of the cabbage moss and worms around. So we're really not sure what is eating them. So we've kind of changed tactics a little bit. We ended up planting some sorrel seed, and so we have planted that along the edge of this row here. There's only a couple of plants that I can see at the moment. They're pretty small when we transplanted them, but they're pretty hardy and are usually perennials here in our climate. So that'll be nice to have some green that doesn't necessarily get attacked by all the cabbage moss. And this one where we've tried planting chard and broccoli and kale, we have just planted about 2 days ago some of our carrot seed. So we should at least have a row of carrots here, and hopefully they will not have as many pest issues as the brassicas this year. And our okra is still going pretty strong, but it is starting to peter out. I'm not getting as many pods every week off of them. Underneath them we have planted some lettuce plants, and we're probably going to be planting some more lettuce in this row as the fall continues on. But for now, we're letting the okra continue on, and we're enjoying these last flavors of summer. So this next quadrant over here is where we had our tomatillos and our tomatoes. We have pulled those out, and it's a similar story over here. We've tried planting broccoli and kale over here more than once. And in this first row here, we just recently planted kale directly by seed, and we're hoping that by planting by seed, that gives us another week to maybe get the pests out of our area, and maybe this one will have a chance this winter to produce some kale for us. In the row next to them, I don't think we've replanted anything in there yet, so we'll probably take a look at our seeds. Maybe we'll throw radishes or something quick in there to see if we can get a crop going to fill up our beds, because we don't want to have open beds that just grow weeds all winter. We want to have something in them to keep the soil covered, prevent erosion, and keep the soil microbiome very happy. We did leave one row of our cherry tomatoes as they were still producing when we were pulling out the rest of our tomato plants. So we're still getting a few cherry tomatoes. They are starting to succumb to blight. so they won't be in here too much longer, but it's still nice to have some fresh tomatoes as we slip into fall. And in this row, we had the carrots that we planted back in the spring. And these carrots grew great all summer, but we harvested a few and they were bitter, probably because it was really hot and dry. So we are letting them stay in the ground since they're not having any disease or pest issues, and we're hoping to have them go all the way to the frost, because frost usually makes your carrots a bit sweeter. So we're hoping that helps save this row of carrots from the compost heap. Well, hope you enjoyed this tour around our September garden. We're definitely in a season of decay while still fighting some of the summer pests, but we're also transitioning into some of our fall crops, and we're definitely looking forward to when the pests start dying off so that we can really get our fall garden planted. Well, I hope your gardens are wrapping up well this year and that you are giving a fall garden at least a try in a pot or two. And with that, we'll catch you next time.